All right, on today's video, we are going to be going through some deals and analyzing them, breaking them down, seeing what they look like, and if they're a deal that might be worth doing or not doing. As I've mentioned, one of my goals this year is to buy an apartment building, some apartment units. I've looked at everything from duplexes to 30 units, 40 units. So trying to find where it fits in there, a good deal. And so we're going to go through some deals today and see what they look like. So let's start with one that I've talked to a local realtor in my area, and she sent me a few deals. This was one of them. It is 5 units. They say that it is fully occupied. So I'm going to be using a deal analysis chart, whatever you want to call it, but from Grant Cardone. Obviously, I've watched his videos, and I'm sure a lot of you have, about apartment buildings. And so I break them down pretty much how he would. There's some other ways I do it, which are a little bit more detailed, but we can get into that later. So this is kind of a simple way just to look at a deal. If you've ever watched any of his videos, this is kind of where I got that and how I'm going to analyze videos as well. So I'm going to go through this one. 5 units. They are asking $575. So 575,000, 5 units. All right. And the realtor actually sent me okay, the realtor sent me the P&L statement from 2025. So this is a deal that I've recently been looking at in the last 25 days since January started. So last year, they said that their operating income was $48,827. So first of all, the way I break down these deals is we're going to look at the income. We're going to look at the expenses. And then we're going to look at the asking price, what the down payment would be, what the rough estimate of debt would be on that. And then we're going to look at our cash on cash dollars and percent. So we look at it both ways and can tell if it's a good deal or not. Just because it has a good percentage, it may not be a lot of money. And just because it has a lot of money, it might not be a good percentage. So we look at it both ways. And the other way we can tell how much we're paying for a deal is the NOI, which is the net operating income. So that is the income minus the expenses is your NOI. So on this deal, so we're going to look at the income, we're going to look at the expenses, we're going to figure out the debt, and then we're going to look at the cash on cash return. Okay. So the other thing that comes up in these is cap rate. So the cap rate is sometimes in deals that you look at. So I'm looking at these deals on Crexy. This one the realtor sent me, but it's on there as well. But sometimes they'll have the cap rate on there. And the cap rate is, if you paid cash for this deal, the expected income that you should expect. So let's say it's 10%. So you should expect $57,000 cap rate, which would be your NOI. Okay, this one doesn't have it, but that's one that comes up a lot as well. So these are the 4 categories that we're going to be looking at these deals. So let's get started on this one. So this one says 2025, their net operating income was 48,827. So let's say 50,000. Okay, that was the income in 2025. The expenses, okay, they say expenses they say $10,000, but I know that's not right. What happened here? Okay. They do have maintenance in there at $5,000, which 10% kind of makes sense. So, all right, look, we're just going to go with what their numbers are. So, income 50,000, expenses 10,000. So 50 minus 10. So our NOI is $40,000. Okay. I meant to put NOI in here, but NOI $40,000. So our income after expenses, the NOI is $40,000. So let's say we paid cash for this, 40,000 divided by, that's a 6.95 cap rate. So 7%. Okay. Which is not too bad. All right, now let's say we paid $57,575 for this. Let's say our debt's going to be 25%. $143. So let's say our down payment is now going to be $144. Okay. Let's take a general, let's say 6.5%, could be more or less, but our debt is going to be on that, oh, I'm sorry, 575 minus 144. Our debt is going to be 431. And on that, we'll multiply that by 6.5%. That's going to be 28,015 a year. Okay. All these numbers are per year. So you want to analyze it per year, not 1 month, 6 months, whatever, even multiple years. Just do a per year analysis. So it's making $50,000 a year. The expenses are $10,000. That leaves with us with $40,000. So if we do 40,000 minus the 28, that leaves us 11,985,000. That, let's say $1,000 a month, we're going to net out of this deal. And if we take that divided by our down payment, 8.32%. Okay. So on paper, this isn't a bad deal, but it's 5 units. So if you have one person that moves out, then your occupancy goes down 20%. So if you take 20% out of this number, these numbers don't, you're probably losing money. Okay. If you're watching the video and you have any questions about this, please let me know, comment. And also, if you analyze it a different way, then let me know that as well. We can try it out on future videos. Okay, so this is 575, 5 units. We're going to net $12,000 or 8.32%. This number is pretty low. I would probably inquire more about this, about why is it that low. At $50,000, that is $20%. So typically I'd analyze it at 30 or 40%, depending on the size of the deal. So if I did 50,000 times 0.3, that's 15,000. And this goes down another 5,000, which now you're at, what is that, 6,000? Yeah, $6,900. So now you're netting $500 a month, and this percentage goes down as well. So for $500 a month, do you want to own 5 units, have to deal with 5 different tenants? That would be the question on 5 units versus the bigger deal. But based on their numbers, may not be too bad. All right, let's look at another one. This red, it's a pain in the butt to clean off, but it shows up really good. All right, let's look at another one. This is another local deal. Let's see if I can pull this one up. Okay, this one is 10 units. Okay, this is 10 units. By the way, that last deal said it was 100% occupancy. So we should, based on their numbers, be getting the full amount. This deal, however, it's 10 units, but they're 80% occupancy. So they're not even 100% occupant. And they're asking $1.4 million, $140,000 a unit. And it's at 80%. Okay, so let's see what their numbers say. I don't have a rent roll or anything for this. All I have is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, so the numbers I have are their current, let's see, 50 plus 100 plus 750 1260 plus 140. Okay, 8710 times 12. Okay, so based on current rent at 80%, they say they're getting 104,000. The statement I have though is from it's like late 2024 till late 2025. So I'm not sure if it's accurate, but we'll go by their numbers. So based on their current rent, 80% occupancy, they should be getting 104,000 in rental income. They're giving us a pro forma, which I don't look at those. I'll look at market rents and see where the difference might be, if there's any upside there. But they're saying the pro forma should be 152,000 of rental income. So they're $50,000 off. And the statement that I have is even less. So based on the statement I have, so their income is, now I'm going to look at just the numbers they give me. So when I'm talking to a realtor or the broker or someone on the deal, then I can drill down on those questions and ask them what the actual numbers are if they have numbers in different places. Because on the same sheet of paper the broker sent me, there's two different numbers. So they're saying their income is 95,665. So $96,000. Expenses, they are saying, is $25,000, which there's not a real big breakdown here, but it looks like they don't have any management in place at all. So if I went and got a manager, 8-10%, I always do 10%. That's another $9,600 a year. So, but they say 25,000. So let's go with that number. We'll do it both ways. We'll just add another 10,000 on that and see what it looks like. Okay. So 96, 25. Let's put this at 26 just for easy math. So that's $70,000. So their NOI is $70,000. Okay. So our debt, okay, 1.4. 25%. That means we're going to have to put down $350,000. Okay. That leaves us with $1,050. Okay, times 0.06. $68,250. What is that? $1,700? Yep, $1,750. If you can see that, $1,700 net. Okay, and that's the expenses of where they are. Okay, so we add $10,000 to that, we're losing $9,000. Now, if you can get this to 100% occupancy, okay, so let's say 90, what did we say? 96,000? Let's say 96,000 is eight units. 96,000 divided by 12 divided by 8,000 bucks. Okay, so let's say 2,000 times 12 plus 96,000. Okay, so let's say we get it to 120,000. Okay, they're saying we can get it to 152, but let's say we can get it to 120. Okay, and our expenses are 26. 120 minus 26. Now this is 94,000 minus the 68. Okay, the debt's not going to change whether we are 100% occupant or not. So 94 minus the 6850. Now we're at $26,000. Okay, that's a big difference. Okay, that's $2,000 a month. Divide that by our 350 down payment, 7.35. Okay, this is similar to the last deal. It actually is double the units and double the cash flow. If you listen to Grant Cardone, units is the number one factor looking at these deals. Doubled the units, we doubled our cash flow, but our percentage stays the same. Okay. So this deal isn't too bad either. The problem with these two deals is that they're really old properties. And the expenses to me seem low. Okay, but we did this at 26. So we had 10,000 to that. We reduced that by 10,000. Now it's not as good. To have an old property, 5-10 units, they're not updated. So you could update them before you buy it, but then you need more capital up front. But you don't know what's going to go wrong for this amount of money. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, this is one. This is one. This is one out of state that I've looked at. And this one is this one is 30 units. But I'm trying to get my reps in. I'm just looking at stuff. Getting used to analyzing them. Going through the math. Okay. And just get more comfortable doing that. Okay, so this one is 30 units. Okay. They are asking, I think they're asking 4.5. So they're asking 4,500,000. Okay, 30 units, $4.5 million The good thing about this deal, it was built in 2022. So it is new. Okay. What's that? 3 years old? It'll be 4 years old this year. So this is a new deal. Let's take a look. All right, so this one, it says it's 100% occupant. Okay, now this one did give us the cap rate. So $4.5 million, they're saying their cap rate is 7.27%. 7.27%. Okay, which would mean at a $4.5 million asking price, after expenses, we should make 7.27%. So let's see. Times 0.0727. That's an NOI of $327,150. Okay. So based on their numbers, after expenses, we should make that. So let's do our debt real quick. So 4.5 million. Our down payment would be 1,125, which would leave us with $3,375. Okay, times 0.065. So our debt would be 219,375. So if we took 219,375, roughly we'd be left with 100. Whoops. Dang it. Let's say 220, we'd be left with 107. Now this is a lot better than those previous deals, but it's triple the units. Triple the units and almost 5 times the income. So let's look at this. They're saying their current average rent is $1,238. $1,238 times 30. So their income, let's see if this tracks. Income is $37,140. That's per month, actually. Times 12, $445,680. Okay. So let's say expenses are 40%. So I'm going to put that over here. Okay. So this is expenses at 40%, which on a bigger deal like this, expenses are going to be a little more. However, it is a brand new building. So you're not going to need roofs. You're not going to need ACs. You're not going to need any of those capital expenditures that maybe come up on older deals. But it is got some landscaping stuff that you're going to have to cut grass and plow. And, well, this one's a little more south, but you may not need to plow anything. But let's see what they say for their expenses. 40% could be high, but I'd rather be high than low. And if it still works at that, then that's even better. Okay, so their T3, so that's the trailing 3 years, their average, they're saying their rental income has been 412. Okay, so a little less than this. So let's do it both ways. So 412. Now this could be when they first started. They might not have been fully occupied. They're saying they're 100% occupied now. So, I don't figure things at 100% occupancy typically, but I'm just going by their numbers. So that 1238 times 30, I would do it probably 95% just to include some vacancy in there. But their T3, they're saying is 412. Okay. But this is pretty much total potential. I did this number at 40%. Let's see what they have. Their expenses on, actually, you know what? I'm looking at this wrong. Sorry. So their T12, I'm sorry, they have other income. So they have the rental income and they have some pet rent, other miscellaneous fees, utility bill back. They must be getting some kind of perk on the utilities back. Their other income is 57,000, so their total income is 470. So it's actually more than what the rent says, which is even better. So expenses, 142,000. So they're saying 142,798. Let's do it this way too. Okay. So I figured 178 at 40%. So it's actually a little less than that. 30% is what they're saying. So then they come out with their net operating income. Okay. And we know what our debt is. Our debt is this, give or take. Closing costs and all that's going to be more, but this is roughly what it's going to cost us. So that's not going to change. So let's do these two numbers. Let's do worst case scenario. We'll do this number minus this. We'll see what it comes out to. 445,680 minus 178,272 is 267 minus our debt at 219, $48,000. So this with this and our debt, 48,000. That's like worst case scenario. Okay, based on what they're saying, it's going to be better, but that's worst case scenario. You divide that by our down payment, 11,125. That's 4.2%. Say 4.3. Okay. Okay, the rental minus that, you get 302 minus 220. That's $82,000. So at their market rent, minus what they say their expenses are, 30%, we're at $83,000. So this is scenario 2, 83. That's 7.3. Okay, which could be a realistic number. So 470 minus 143. So their numbers, 470 minus 143, that gets us to the 327 minus our debt. That's our NOI, or our cash on cash per year. Okay, this is net, what we're taking home in our pocket. Divide that by our 125, 9.5%. Okay. 10 years, you got your money back. Nothing changes. You're getting paid. And they're saying there's room on that as well. So they're also saying that where is it? Their average rent is $12.38. Okay, the average potential is $13.25. So that's $100. So let's say you increase the rents $100 times 30. That's $3,000 a month times 12. That's an additional $36,000 a year. Okay, so this is what they're saying they're getting now, plus, okay, this would go to 506 minus your 220, which is the debt. This goes to 286. This doubles. Divided by our 125, 25%. So if you get another $100 out of this, this is a great deal. I've actually called the broker on this, haven't talked to him, but this is a great deal. So if you get 100 times 30, 3,000 times 12, let's say you hold it 10 years times 10, that's $360,000 divided by, let's take the middle percentage, divided by 0.073, $4.9 million in additional value over 10 years. Basically doubled the price. If I did that right, $100 times 30 times 12, 36,000. Let's say times 10 divided by 0.095. At this percentage, it's 3.7 million. $100 times 30 times 12. NOI 0.073, 493,000 of additional NOI. This is a great deal. I like this deal. At their numbers, you're making 107,000, 9.5% on your down payment. Worst case scenario, 48,000 is probably a little too low. It's probably going to make more than that because of the expenses. But 83,000, 7.5% return. You're still netting 83,000. Here's their numbers, 107. You increase the rents, you get some upside there. So here's a couple deals that I'm looking at. These bigger deals, there's more potential. You need more down, but if you have a network, you get some partners, you get some investors. What we're working on is coming up with a structure for the investors so they can get monthly checks and upside of the profit when we refinance, sell, whatever. Eventually you're going to do it, but so like a profit sharing and a monthly payment on the percentage. So that's what we're putting together now to do these bigger deals. If you're in a network, that's what you got to do. Work your network, friends, other investors. So this is what I'm doing. If other people watching, you see this, you're interested in this, let's get together and talk, because I'm looking at stuff every day and analyzing it every day and then just going through some on video. So comment if you like the video. If you have different ways to do this, you have any questions about this, you want to look at deals together, you want to invest in deals, you're already doing deals, I would love to learn from you. And if not, then hit me up and let's talk about it. Let's do some deals together. Because I'm doing one with or without you, but would love to do it together so we can get more deals done and more units. All right, appreciate it. Catch you on the next video. Thanks.